Bruce just said, okay, guys, one.
You'll notice that I'm not laughing.
Then we started.
You notice that?
Why are you not laughing?
Because I'm mad.
Brad, what
I'm
did you
mad
do?
at my co-host.
What did you do?
He's been making fun of me. And I feel I'm
What
hurt.
did I just say?
I'm hurt.
What did I
you
say?
You called me stupid.
You still pouting about that?
I am pouting about
that
that
was
a
like
little
60 seconds ago.
Welcome, everybody.
Everybody, welcome. If this is your first time tuning in, we apologize. You stumbled across our stream. But we are very glad that you are here. See, I didn't say so excited.
You just said so excited.
Oh, darn. We're also so excited that you are here joining us today.
And the other thing we're not going to say is start a watch party.
You just said that.
Oh, man.
Hey, everyone, start a watch party. But that's all we're going to talk about. Okay?
Oh.
You've got to turn down your volume, Gumbo.
Well.
What do you think Gumbo means?
It's been one of those days.
I thought it's been a great day.
It has been a great day. But
I've had a great time.
You made me mad, so I may not talk to you all night.
Are you really mad, Brad?
Not at all.
Do you want to talk about it?
Not at all. I'm not mad
Okay,
at all.
let's talk about it, Brad.
No.
Let's talk about how many times you've made me mad.
Oh, that's countless.
I actually can't remember one.
Really?
I'm sure you have.
I'm sure I have.
I'm sure you have.
It's all right. I don't know if I've really... Jordan Shitwood's watching with me.
I'm watching?
Yes. So, hey, everybody. We're going to actually start early tonight.
We are going to start early.
Yeah.
Right after I start the thing we're not going to name.
That's right. I think I'd be honest.
Brad, why don't you tell them where we ate dinner tonight?
We went to Wings, Etc. We haven't been there. We haven't been there for a long time.
I haven't been there I think our young adults went like a few months ago.
Yeah.
But then we used to go all the time in like high school.
Huh.
I never was a fan.
Yeah,
I liked it today though.
It was pretty good today.
Yeah, it was very good.
I had tots.
Yes.
I'm a tot fan.
I had tots. That's what
Tater
Brad
tots.
just said.
Tater tots.
You did have tater tots.
I did. They
I
were
had
good. They were
fries
crunchy. They
and
were
I
good.
had it was called a burger.
It's a good thing no one's watching because, if
Bruce is watching, Brad's watching. Yeah, really nobody is watching. That's okay. If you're watching, you are not a nobody. You are somebody in the eyes of Brad.
Should we just get started?
I think, I want to know what your question is.
Here's the deal.
You didn't come up with a question?
No, I think you're going to get this question tonight.
You told me that, but I think you're just hyping me up to
No,
fail.
I'm not. I really am. And I want to give a little explanation. So when I walk through this, I don't want you to get all frustrated like the last time and ask me if that's the question.
Okay, the last time he gave an explanation, it was 6 questions.
Yeah, I don't think these are questions, but
Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know where this is coming from tonight.
Okay.
Okay. And because on occasion, because this is I can't say the word.
Generationally
speaking.
Yes.
And I've noticed that sometimes when we communicate together, you don't understand some of the things that I say.
It's most of the time.
Most of the time.
I usually just go with it the other
times.
times.
And it's honestly a generation thing.
I agree.
So the other day, I think Bruce was with us and whatever, and I said that I was bleeding like a stuck pig.
Yes.
And you had no idea what I was talking about.
No idea.
You had this blank look on your face.
I did.
And several weeks earlier than that, Barb told Jordan that he was like a bull in the china shop.
A bowl in a china shop.
And you thought she said bowl. Bowl,
like
not
B-O-W-L.
But yeah, because that makes sense.
B-U-L-L.
You'd have a bowl in a china shop. But you had no idea what a bowl in the china shop
I
is.
did. I had zero idea.
So this is not your
Is
question.
this another saying?
This is not your question. Do you know what letting the cat out of the bag means?
But is this my question?
No, it's
letting
not
the
your
cat out of the
question.
bag. Is that when you have news and you're like, I got to share it with somebody, but you're not allowed to?
Exactly. See? Okay. All right.
I am 1-0.
No,
ladies
that
and
is
gentlemen.
not the question.
New Year question.
That is not the question. How about this one? Piece of cake.
Yeah, I know what a piece of cake is. It's that stuff you eat.
No, if someone
I know,
said,
it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Like that
exactly.
question. That
How
question
about
was
this?
a piece of cake.
At the drop of a hat.
Is that like you'll go as soon as possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. See? How about having cold feet?
You get nervous.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
What does that have to do with the cups of eggs in China?
Well, it's the same thing as a bowl in the china shop.
Okay.
And it's also the same thing as I'm bleeding like a stuck pig.
I thought we were getting started quicker tonight.
Wait, no, this is.
This setup. Okay, I don't want to make you mad anymore. Hurry up, or slow down.
So these words, these phrases, are not meant to be taken literally.
True.
Okay, they just And,
so I'm not a bowl in a china shop.
And most no, you are a bowl in a china shop. But normally,
which kind?
But normally people know what these statements are and what have you. There's actually a name for these statements. They are called something. Do you know what that is?
Is this my question?
That is the question.
You're kidding me.
What are these type of statements?
They're puns,
Not even close.
but they are puns.
No.
You said I had a chance.
I thought you would know this. You're college.
a ministry major.
You're college educated.
I just paid a lot of money to
Really?
read the Bible.
Really? You don't know what they're called?
No.
They're idioms.
Idioms.
IDIOM.
That might be the second time in my life I've heard
Bruce,
that word.
did you know what these were called? Yes, see,
Bruce gave
knew.
a thumbs down.
See, Bruce? No, he didn't. He said, yes, I did.
Well,
So,
I'm
I really
0
thought
for 1.
I really thought you would know that.
Why? I haven't gotten any of our other questions correct.
I know, but I mean, it was an easy. There was only one chance. It wasn't like, hey, I got a chance of 1 through 3 million. It was on what I really thought you might know that. It's an idiom.
Brad, I feel like I
And
let you down.
You know why No, you didn't. Do you know why I chose this?
Why?
Because what we're talking about tonight is an idiom.
Is it?
Yes.
I have no idea where you're going with this, so how about you introduce us?
Hey, everybody. I would love to be able to start this over, but unfortunately, we're live and we can't. So there's no do-overs here. Normally, we can cut this stuff out.
There's no do-overs,
There's
but
no
there
do-overs.
are don't-overs.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, my name is Brad Maddox. Welcome to Generationally Speaking. My name is Brad Maddox, and I am
You're not saying my name. I'll just keep doing this.
one of the pastors here is all I'm going to say. And this is Jordan Chitwood, the young adults pastor here at Crossbridge Community Church, who has no idea what an idiom is.
I do not. But hey, whether you're watching with us or listening online, we are so glad that you are here joining us tonight. This is our second week of Generationally Speaking.
Yep.
And so if you missed last week's episode, you can find it on Spotify or iTunes now. That's kind of
That's
cool.
amazing.
We talked about how to study the Bible.
We did.
And so tonight what we're going to be looking at is something called church baggage.
So you're talking about regular baggage, right?
No. Talking
Oh.
about church baggage.
So like a suitcase.
No.
Oh, so it's
Wait, let me say it differently. No.
so it's an idiom.
Oh,
were
is
you-
it an idiom?
Yeah.
There's
'Cause
another
it's not
word
real
I'm thinking
baggage.
of right now.
Never mind.
It's not idiom. Yeah, so hey, tonight we're talking about church baggage, and we want to wrestle with this question. We think that there are a lot of individuals who have had messed up situations with churches or Christians in the past.
Yes.
Hurtful. And then that kind of shapes their entire view of what the church or
Right.
what Christians are
right.
like.
Right. And I
Rightfully
think
so.
And I think that's part of the reason why, if you look at stats of why so many, especially younger generation,
Oh, absolutely.
is leaving the church. And I
Yes.
think this is, I'm not saying this is all of it,
Yeah.
but this is a vast, it's a big part of that.
Yes.
And especially if you look at the stats of like Gen Z, which I think we've talked about, I don't know if we talked about here, but we talked about it in church before,
Yeah.
is that like 60% of Gen Z who were actually churched at one time
Mm-hmm.
have left the church.
Yeah.
And it's shocking, but I think
Yes.
this, what we're going to talk about tonight, is part of the problem.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and what we were talking about is, it makes sense if you've experienced some of the things we've talked about, or you yourself have church baggage, it makes sense why you feel that way. Why, well, isn't this how the whole church is like?
It's a valid
It's a valid
feeling.
feeling. Because, I mean, if you go into let's say you ate at a Buffalo Wild Wings once and you had a bad experience there,
You don't go back.
you don't go back.
Right.
Especially you. Like, if you have a bad experience somewhere.
Right. I'm pretty picky about that kind of
You
stuff.
are, yeah. And so it makes sense. But we want to talk about that because both Brad and myself have had harmful or hurtful, I don't know the word you want to use, tough situations and ministries in the
Right,
past.
Right.
And we're both still working at a church.
And we've known people who have had those bad experiences.
Absolutely.
And I hope that I've never been part of that bad experience for someone else.
Yes.
But I think it's something that we, as followers of Christ, have to also be aware of and say that we could be that at some point in time.
Yes.
And there's going to be some pushback. Are we going to be talking about some of the pushback that some people may have on this?
Yeah,
Is saying, "Oh, what about
As
this?"
long as we have time.
Okay, yeah. So
So I want to start off with a question, Brad. It's kind of a two-part question. One, let's kind of define what baggage looks like.
Right.
But then also understanding that it can go beyond this perimeter. Like, you might have experienced some of your own church baggage that we didn't have time to address tonight.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So don't limit it just to these things that we're talking about.
Exactly.
But-
These are some of the highlights of what could cause baggage. And baggage
Exactly.
is basically, and you can have baggage in a lot of areas of your life.
Yeah.
We talk all the time, especially when we do premarital counseling, is that you could bring in baggage from a past relationship.
Yeah,
You know,
whether you were dating, married,
or
yeah,
whatever. And
absolutely.
so it's just those things that happened in the past that it's hard for you to let go of. And so you use that as a filter. In a relationship, it would be, oh, well, this is how my ex, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, reacted. So now I bring that into the next relationship
Absolutely.
and say, well, when they act this way, and you're reverting back, and it may not be that at all.
Yeah, it might
In
not.
church, it would be, this is what I experienced. This is how I felt. I was not loved. I was hurt. I was this, that. And so every church, and so when I go to another church, our antennas are up, and we are honestly sometimes looking for that to happen
Absolutely.
again
Yeah.
in that experience. And it
Yeah.
can be a lot of things, and we can go through some of these. Some of this stuff, unhealthy leadership. There's some
Yeah, that's a very common one.
some leadership issues. Just judgmental stuff, and I don't
Yeah.
know how we can define that, but you feel like, okay, I'm being judged.
Yeah, well, maybe you walked in a certain outfit
Right.
that was not quote
You
unquote
weren't
acceptable.
You weren't dressed properly.
Yeah, or you sat in somebody's seat and you didn't realize there were assigned seats.
Yes.
And that you could just tell that they looked
And
at
there
you with
are
that
assigned
judgment.
seats.
There are I mean, if we're being honest, every church has them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know where the
I-
regulars
Every once
sit.
in a while, I'll go up to somebody in church and say, "Hey, you're not sitting in the right seat. So
I know.
how am I supposed to know that whether you are here or not?" And those are kind of some of the things. And then there's just theology issues.
Yeah.
This is how we believe, very staunch, or hey, you're a sinner because this is what you do.
Yeah.
And here's where we may get some pushback, and that some people say, well, sometimes we have to talk truth.
Yeah.
And there's truth.
truth to
There's
that.
truth to that.
Yeah.
But we're talking at a different level than what that.
Yeah, I think the baggage comes from the condemning type lifestyle. You hear some of the extreme pastors that say, if you do this, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Okay, and that doesn't help anybody. I've never, when you scare somebody into following Jesus,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because the commitment to following Jesus has to go past the initial reaction.
Right.
And so if you do something out of fear for Jesus, it probably won't last very long.
Yeah. I had a friend actually one time that was talking about his pastor, and his pastor made a comment that I would rather have a snake in my baby's crib than a bottle of alcohol in my house.
Huh.
And he was bragging about that, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't go to church there.
No.
But and then there's
I don't want to be around anyone that wants a snake in his baby's crib.
I couldn't get that analogy, but anyway. And then there's also areas that sometimes we've been in church for a long time. We may be even serving in a church, and people feel like they've been overused or
Yeah.
they've been taken advantage of
Yeah.
in a position. They don't feel like they've been encouraged or things like that. So there's even. It's not even just hey, I've come to church and I feel this way. It's I've been in church for a long time, and now I just give up because I think the institution is going a different. I'm not being treated right.
Yeah.
I'm being, things like that.
Yeah, and I think along those lines too, another thing is the idea of feeling like you're just a number.
Right.
Okay, where you could be pouring into this body of Christ, the church, the ecclesia, and feel like you're just a number there.
Right.
You're only good if your gifts continue to be there.
Yeah.
If you have to say no at one point to doing something, and then they react in a certain way,
Right.
well, man, am I
Yeah.
just a number?
And then it's not only the church, but it's the people sometimes in the church,
Yeah.
or even our friends or our Christian friends who are judgmental, or they talk about you behind your back.
Yeah.
Or they say things that they don't have conversations with you. They assume you mean something when you really don't, and
Yeah.
things like that. So it's just relational breakdowns, if you will.
Yeah, and then for some of you, probably a smaller majority, that's an oxymoron, a smaller portion that might have been in leadership in the past, experiencing some of that, well, man, I was either attacked or I was stabbed in the back or I was betrayed.
Right.
There is that part of church baggage as well. Again, there's so much that you could be bringing to the table, and we want to talk about it because
Right.
it doesn't have to be, your church experience doesn't have to be defined by your past church experience.
Exactly.
Okay, like I said, Brad and I both have come from ministries, churches where there were some unhealthy things that took place. And it took me about a year to find hope again in the church,
Right.
find some healing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about what the church is supposed to look like. But the biggest point we want to talk about tonight is if you have any church baggage, there is hope for you to be able to be restored again
Absolutely.
by the community of Christ.
Yes. And we believe that the church is still the hope of the world. And we talk and understand too is when we talk about the church, we're not talking about a four-walled building
And then the ceiling.
and the ceiling. Yeah, we need a ceiling, especially at this time of year. But we're talking about the body, the movement,
Yes.
the ecclesia, what was
Yeah.
actually intended to be, there's opportunity. I think there's still opportunities for you to fit in somewhere, and we believe the church is still the hope of the world.
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to show you what the church is supposed to look like. And you might not even know that you've experienced any unhealthy church. Yeah, and then once we read some of these verses, you might be like, whoa, that is not, if you don't attend Crossbridge, and you're like, that is not what mine's like. Or hopefully you don't read these and you do attend Crossbridge, you're like, well, that's how Brad's like. So what we'll do is we'll just read, we have 3, we'll read every other one. I'll start with Ephesians. And it's going to be on the screen here. If you're listening, enjoy my voice, okay? So we're at Ephesians chapter 2, verse 19 and 22. And this is what Paul writes to the church in Ephesus, trying to encourage them. He says, consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people, and also members of his household, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the chief cornerstone. In him, the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. Verse 22, and in him, you too are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. And Brad, why don't you read the next one for us?
Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 and 20 says this. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.
And then the last one we'll read is 1 Thessalonians 5:11, and this is what is written. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing.
Yeah.
So isn't that how church is every single Sunday?
Every one of them. You know, and it's funny because you hear all the time say, well, we want to be the New Testament church, the Acts 2.
The Church of the Acts.
The Church of Acts 2, where, you know, people were taking care of each other. It was all about, you know, communion and fellowship and things like that. And that is what the church is supposed to be like.
That's exactly what it's supposed to be like.
And I love some of these verses in here, and it talks about that you are being built together, become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. And you think, you know, sometimes you see that some of the relationships and some of the way that churches are acting, and you think that's anything but that.
Exactly. I mean, you yourself might have experienced some pain. Maybe you were overworked. Maybe there was unhealthy leadership. You know, toxic theology, toxic demonstration of theology. Maybe you were hurt, and you're like, hey, when I read those verses, it makes me furious.
Yeah.
It angers me because that was not my experience with God.
Yeah. And I think if you read through all of these things, one of the things that really stuck out to me was this is all about Jesus.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
The cornerstone, and we say
yeah.
this a lot of times, we really preach that about it in our series called Revolution, is that the cornerstone, the basis of our faith is the resurrection of Jesus and nothing else. And sometimes we get church people, churches get to the point of it's all about certain requirements and certain things that we have to do. You know, we are doing it the right way.
Yeah.
The right way is the resurrection of Jesus.
Exactly. And honestly, when you try to walk amidst the rules and regulations and religion, honestly, the unhealthy form of the religion, while still trying to lean on Jesus, you butt heads a lot. Because you have all that where, well, I'm trying to do A and B, and God's requiring that I do C, but how do I do it all?
Right.
You know, and I think that is where we also mess up quite a bit, even as pastors, where sometimes we get hung up on, I guess, performance-based is the best way of saying it.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we're talking about attendance sometimes, it can be so easy for us to get frustrated. Well, why is there attendance every other week or every 3 weeks and that stuff? And when you ask, I think Bruce talked about the why behind or whatever it might be. Often situations go a little bit deeper. Okay?
Right.
But that's something that we have to check ourselves on.
Exactly. And it's something that we not only have to realize, but the church, and we still believe that the church is a crucial part of your life.
Absolutely.
There's something about the live experience, about being with other believers, about being on a team, if you will, because that's basically what a congregation is. You know, it's a movement. It's going in one direction, and we believe that you're called to a church.
Yeah.
You know that when you are in a church, you are part of the body. That you have a crucial part to play. That only you can play in that.
Yeah.
And so it's crucial for you to find that kind of, it's part of fulfillment of what God is calling us to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually crucial. And then you get these other things that are in the way, and now we don't want to be a part of that. Well, we can worship God on our own.
Yeah. We hear that a lot.
Yeah, well, I don't have to go to church to be a good Christian. There is some truth to that.
You don't have to go on dates with your wife to be a good husband either.
Exactly, but
I mean, well, my wife would disagree. I love dating. I love spending money and going out and doing stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm sure Jesus would love us to spend our money and go out and do stuff too.
Exactly. but there's something special about about being together, especially with people in the same moving in the
Exactly.
same direction. It's the
Absolutely.
reason why we go to live sporting events.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to follow your team, but there's something
Yeah, the
special.
camaraderie
There's
and the
something special
atmosphere.
about being there and atmosphere,
Exactly.
and it's the same thing with worship. And so, I think that's one reason why we're talking about this is we don't want you to give up on that because it's an
No.
amazing experience for you, and in your spiritual walk.
Yeah. You see, we recognize that we do not fully understand what your situation might have been like. Your time might have been abused. You might have been abused. You might have had a very difficult situation that you can't even put words to.
Right.
But for some reason, you're here listening today
Right.
with us.
Right.
And so we hold that as there's still hope, that you can once again place your hope back in God and back in the church.
Right.
Because like you said, ultimately, we think that being a part of a community of believers is one of the best things for your faith.
Right.
It'll push you, it'll grow you, it'll challenge you if you find the place that is right for you.
Right.
We tell people all the time that are new visitors here at Crossroads, we say, hey, we might not be your home church.
And let us help you find that place.
Exactly.
We hope that this is it. We would
Yeah.
love for someone to stick here, but it may be a different movement that's doing some different things that this fits me better,
Yeah, absolutely.
and not because it makes me feel better.
Or
It's a
more
matter of
comfortable.
where
Exactly.
do you fit in that you can
Yes.
become a piece? Because if you're and here's a challenge to people who are at church all the time is, are you being a piece of that?
Yeah. Have you made it a part of your job to still be uncomfortable if you've been at somewhere that is comfortable?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
comfortable because you recognize it's familiar.
How
I
are you
guess is a better
growing
word.
through this?
How are
'Cause
you
that's
growing?
that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And so when I experienced my unhealthy church, like I said, I left and I was just broken. My view of it was damaged. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do church ministry anymore, be a part of it. But I was able to find some hope. And I know you've experienced some similar
Right.
things so what we want to talk about for these last few minutes, if you're sitting there, you're like, okay, my situation was terrible. I never want to trust in the church again. What if I continue to find churches that just are unhealthy, okay? We want to share a few things that have worked for us a little bit of where, once again, you can find that hope that is your source. So do you want to start or do you want me to
Go
start?
ahead.
Okay, so the biggest thing that was for me is, one, I had to be honest with God, okay? God knows when his body doesn't act the way it's supposed to, okay? So when the church mistreats one another, I believe it is, the band Building 429. It's, I think, Ephesians 4:29, the verse that says, build each other up
Right.
with your mouth. God knows when that doesn't happen, okay? And so sometimes we're like, okay, well, why spend time praying, or talking to God about it? The biggest thing for me was going head to head with God and saying, God, I'm ticked off. This isn't how the church was supposed to be. I could make a lot more money just using my gifts in a secular setting. But like we shared earlier, my heart was craving a community.
Right.
So the first step that I have is, one, be real with God. And then the second step is find people that you can be real with too.
Right.
And that doesn't have to be the church. There were people that I called and needed to process this stuff with, where I was hurt from the church, that didn't expect me to just be okay after the first conversation. I would rant and rant and rant to them for months about how I was still damaged and hurting.
Right.
And so those were the first two steps that I took.
Yeah. And for me, I had the experience that it was a little bit different. I won't use the word hurt in my church experience, but I knew that I was going a different direction than what the leadership was wanting to go. I felt like this was what God was calling me to, okay, that this is the way we should be reaching to the lost and reaching other generations and the community and things like that. And it came up a resistance to the leadership, and which is all fine, but what I was frustrated with was I didn't feel released from the church yet. And it was like God was almost saying, well, you can't go. And I'm thinking, God, this is not how, I was miserable because
Yeah.
I was basically was told, no, we're not going to do ministry like you are wired to do ministry.
Yeah.
And so, I think this was part of God just saying, hey, you're going to sit under this leadership until you get this. And I'll never forget, I finally got to a point that one night I was just broken and crying and just praying to God. I said, God, if you want me to stay here for the rest of my life, I am willing to do that. And this is going to sound really hokey, but the next day I got a call from a parachurch ministry
That's cool.
asking me to come on staff with them. And it wasn't until I was, and there was anger on my part because I was saying, you guys are wrong.
Yeah.
And in my perspective, maybe they were, but it wasn't necessarily wrong for them.
Yeah. No, that
does
makes
that make
perfect sense.
sense at all?
Absolutely.
And so it was honestly a thing with me. And the other thing that has happened with ministry from time to time with me is that you got to realize that it's not about a man, it's not about a person. God is
Oh, yeah, that's
still
good.
there. And sometimes we start following people.
Yep.
We start following a person. We start following a personality.
Yeah.
And people are always going to let you down.
Absolutely.
If you're, even with our own sakes, and that's one of the reasons why we team teach.
Yeah.
Is that we don't, so that not one person is a personality here.
Yeah.
And because sooner or later you're going to let somebody down.
I already have.
And I'm going to let somebody, anybody,
Yeah.
any one of our staff is going to let somebody down. We're gonna mess up.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll recognize that and make amends to it.
Yeah.
But if you are following that person saying, I'm putting someone on a pedestal that this person and then they let you down, now it's a matter of what do I do with this?
Absolutely.
God's never going to let you down. He may
Yeah.
take you through some things that you don't like
Yeah.
and some things that are going to stretch you and challenge you and not make you comfortable,
Yeah.
not what you expected, but he's never going to let you down.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to share before we wrap up tonight, don't give up. Okay?
No.
That was also crucial for me. And it took me 6 months, a year to finally be fully restored again and what the church could be about.
Right.
But in that year was a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of depression, struggling, wrestling with God. And I was just like, I wanted to give up. Marissa and I were leading a Bible study at the time, and I even looked at her, and I'm like, can we just can it? Like, can we just give up? Can we just stop it? Thankfully, we didn't.
Right.
Okay, but the biggest thing I say is, once again, for whatever reason, you're here listening, watching, you might have experienced your own pain. You are here. You are giving us or God one more chance.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And we're going to fail you.
Yes.
We might. Okay? But if you can find a place for a season, okay?
That's where
Yeah,
I was
if you
actually
wanna
going to
wrap
go.
up then,
Well, yeah, if you can find a place, and we have this happen here all the time, and people come in, especially if they're highly involved in a church, and they've come here, and sometimes they just need to heal.
Yeah.
And there is a season, and there is a time that
Exactly.
that is okay.
And then they might end up somewhere else.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, find a place that you can sense God there, and that you can heal and hear from Him again. Just don't give up.
Don't ever give up. It is so crucial, we believe, that you do life in community.
Absolutely.
Okay? You cannot do this life alone.
Nope.
And so if you have experienced any church baggage, church pain, anything that we've talked about or anything we haven't talked about, we would love for you to private message us.
Absolutely.
Either on our Facebook page, you can just private message us on the Messenger app. Maybe you're watching on a watch party right now. Private message the person that shared the watch party, because if they shared a watch party, then they are committed to Crossbridge. Okay,
Right.
Private message them. If you're listening on Spotify, go to Crossbridge Community Church on Facebook. Reach out to us.
Right.
We'd love to be able to walk.
We'd love
with
to
you.
have that conversation.
You do not have to be alone.
Nope.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight for week number 2 of Generationally Speaking. We would love to see you this Sunday as Bruce, I almost said our lead pastor.
Close enough.
Yeah, he's the bald guy, which is not a problem. Wink. Okay. Bruce will be wrapping up our series, Keep the Change on
Keep the
Sunday at 9 o'clock or 10:30. If you can't join us this Sunday, we would love to see you next Thursday at 8 o'clock. Would you like to say anything?
Man, I can't wait till next Thursday.
All right. Hey, have a great rest of your night.
Have a great week.